Welcome to the finish line with Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and today let's talk about setting up the area around our sewing machine for quilting. There are some things and some tips that we can do that's going to make it a little bit easier for us to get organized and to get quilting. I think one of the most important things when we are quilting is to set up the machine for success. A lot of machines just have a very small area. It's nice to extend those areas. We can often get extending tables, and that definitely helps because it extends that surface for us. What we want to do is have room for our hands so that we can move the quilt or to hold it as we are feeding it through. But even this is still such a small surface. It's nice if we can build up that surface to the entire tabletop. And it doesn't matter what table you use, it's just nice that we can fill that up. One of the easiest and most economical ways is with boxes. So if we can get boxes the same depth, we're going to be able to build these boxes and continue to put them together until we have an entire surface filled. When we do put those boxes together, instead of putting them together side by side, I would recommend varying them so that we have a seam coming down the other edge. That makes them a little bit stronger. And of course, we can always cut them so that they change sizes, either in the depth or in the size. One thing to keep in mind is, where is that bobbin? If the bobbin is a drop-in bobbin, we have nothing to worry about. But if it's a bobbin that needs to go from underneath, we need to leave this area open. So we can still build boxes all the way around, but then that one box that's going to be underneath, we just don't attach them together. So that way we can move that box and slide it back so we have one surface. So the idea is just to tape all these boxes together. That's going to extend that tabletop. From there, I would recommend we put something over top of it so we don't have these different levels. You can get a product that's called a foam board, and you can get this in any craft supplies. It's a little bit thicker, and what you can do is use that and put that over top of all of those boxes that are taped together. So you have the boxes taped together, and then this is going to sit on top. And you can see where that difference really filled up that little area. And if you can go up so this is really level, that really is the ideal situation. It would be nice if we can have this counter all the same. Sometimes 2 layers of this foam board can just build it up enough. Another thing that we can put on top of these boxes, once we have them all taped together, would be the shiny side of a tablecloth. We can get plastic tablecloths, and on the back there's either a foam or a little flannel. So we can tape that over top of whatever shape we've made with those boxes. And that plastic is going to cause it to be a little bit slippery, and that's definitely what we want. If you don't want to go to the box route, you can get little things to raise the surface. This just happens to be a pipe that is made for plumbing. So you can get a long pipe and then cut it into the size that you want, and then get a thin piece of wood and carve your shape. And that would be a more permanent solution. Whatever we put on the top, what we're wanting is something slippery. If you're using wood, you can paint it and then slick that paint up with wax. I'm going to go to my sewing station, and I'm going to show you a setup that I like to do for my quilting. And some of these tips you might be able to use. With my sewing machine table, I'm able to have my machine up all the way so that I have that free arm available, but I can also lower this. And I have an acrylic tabletop that fits right on, so now I have a large counter that fits right on, so it makes everything level. There are a few things that we can use to make this counter nice and slick. If you have a wooden counter, you can just use a spray wax. Spray a couple of times and give it a good buff. And just cover your feet in your machine while you're doing that. You can also get sprays that are designed to do that. And you can also get little polishes that are actually designed for that purpose. A shoe polish brush is another thing that you can use. You can see I've used this quite often. It has a little bit of a silicone in there, and that cleans that counter, and it does make it very slick. And it's easy to keep everything clean with this. There are, of course, a lot of other things that you can buy that have that slippery on them. There's different styles and different sizes, but it's basically a sheet of this plastic that fits over top. It has the hole, and that helps keep that surface very slippery. Then when we're done, it comes right off. Another thing to think about is the surrounding area. If you have anything on the counter or your table, I would definitely recommend removing it. As we're quilting, the quilt will need to have that room, and if there's something there, it can push it and drop it off the counter or pull it up so that it gets caught up under the machine. If you're able to put your table against a wall, that is really an ideal thing to do. And if we can put it on a second wall, so we have two walls, that's even better. I know it seems like we're crowding ourselves in, but what it's doing is that wall is making a wall so that the quilt is not going to hang over. So we're trying to pull that quilt instead of guiding the quilt. So in this case, I'm lucky I have another surface that I don't have to worry about this area. But if you don't have anything here, adding a little lip means that quilt cannot go any further. And that definitely can work for this side, because it's really easy for that quilt to drape over, and then you're pulling that quilt trying to get it under the needle. And that gravity definitely causes some stress and will cause your needle to break. So if you have some kind of a wall, it can't go any further. Now, if you're not able to go against some walls, chairs work. You can put a row of chairs, so the back of the chair is working just like a wall would work. Another thing to consider is coming out to the left of you. And just like the side walls, this is going to come down, and as we're quilting, it's pulling. So if there's a way that we can extend this, it's going to give us a bigger area to support the quilt. So on this side, you can add small tables or use an ironing board and bring it down to that level. But once again, put something slippery over top of that surface. In my case, I do have a little area that I can put an extension. But I will put a row of chairs right along that edge so that quilt does not drag down. Another thing to think about is extending the table where we sit. And what I mean by that can be something as simple as a nice large pillow. So when I'm sitting at the machine, I'm going to be able to take this pillow and put it underneath. So now I have extended this countertop right as far as it can go. Once we have all of that space ready and set up for us, there are a few tools that can help with the quilting. I personally like to wear gloves. Not that the quilts are heavy, but the fabric on those gloves makes it so they can be gripped really easily, where my skin is smooth and I'm having to grip it harder. So we need something grippy. And there's a lot of other products that you can use. For example, quilting hoops. It has a nice thick handle so I can hold on to it. And it has that grippy on the back. And it has little handlebars you can hold on it, or you can just hold on to the sides. And it also has a little area that is going to fit under the machine. If you think something like this is going to be too thick, you could get smaller things that will do the same thing. This is called a quilt halo. It's just a small ring, and this is a non-slippery surface. So you're going to be able to use that to quilt. So you're going to quilt in an area, pick it up, and move it. You can also use little grips, and this is just a grip that's made from a rug non-slip. So that helps hold the fabric as well. So there are many different things to hold that quilt so that it helps our hands, because what we've done is we've made our surface slippery, but we don't want our hands slippery. There are so many different things that we can use to aid us in our quilting. I would recommend to go to your local quilt or your sewing shop and see what they recommend and see what they have in stock. You might be able to try out some of these products right there in the store so that you know what's comfortable for you. As for the machine, I think the most important thing is before you start any quilting project to make sure the machine is cleaned. Take off these plates, take out the bobbin and clean out all of that lint, because that lint can get stuck on the back, and then we have to pick that off. From there, depending on the project, will be how you set up the machine. So regardless of the space you're working with, I think it's important to have as much as you can in a big flat surface around you, slippery, non-slippery. Build that extra space here, build some walls so that the gravity is not fighting against you, clean the machine, and then have some fun. I do hope these tips will help you set up your station so that you can have a fun and successful quilting time. And thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and I do have a newsletter, all under Sew Very Easy. I'll put some links in the description for you. And thank you for joining me today. Bye for now.